everybody, to this week's edition of True Leadership, where we talk all things leadership. I know I say that in the intro every week because it's true. It is. It's what we do. It's what Mike Van Pelt and Jim Chong and I do. My name is Chris Tice. I'm the host. These two are my amazing co-hosts. If you ever want to be on the show, reach out to us. We'll get you the link and get you in, let you come join the discussion. It's always such a fun time and an honor to discuss these different topics that can be considered all over the board sometimes within leadership, because leadership in and of itself is a pretty general and generic term. So what I've sought out to do when we created this show and when I was looking at different aspects of leadership was, what were different leaders that what were different words, even though I can't say words, what are different words that can describe a leader, or things, skills, abilities, characteristics, personalities even, that describe great leadership. And many times it's not just like what people see. Sometimes it's on the inside. Sometimes it's how we're treating others. Sometimes it's just in our everyday walk, the littlest of things we can do that makes somebody look up to someone else and say, you know what? Why didn't I do that? Or why am I not doing better? It's not meaning they're better than you. It's what can we be doing to make ourselves better that makes the world a better place. And today's topic coincides amazingly well with last week's topic being leaders or trainers. This week we're talking about leaders are developers, or leaders as developers. However you want to look at that is fine, but the understanding is, and we talked about this last year in the wintertime when we talked about training and development. They have to go hand in hand. And the reason why is, I even think about physical fitness. You're not just going to train once and you got it all figured out and all of a sudden you're in the most amazing shape of your life. You have to continually develop the things you're doing. It's the same thing in leadership. It's the same thing in any skill. You look at Michael Jordan when he got cut from the team. Mike, did he give up or just say, I trained on it once, I dribbled the ball a couple times, shot it in the backyard, and I quit?
I think it worked out well for him.
No, but I think he started playing baseball when he figured out he wanted to quit basketball. Wasn't that true?
Yeah. No, what he did was he stayed after school. I believe he went before school too, but I know he stayed after school, and he set up some chairs and just worked and just developed those skills. And when you watch interviews of him, part of why I bring that up is because I've seen a lot of these replays of what was the documentary? Just forgot it. They talked to all the Bulls, all the former players and stuff. ESPN did it. Drawing a blank now.
Me too.
That's okay. Because also the reason why those have been coming up is because his new movie Air, which is not a promotion or anything like that. But my point is I've been watching all these videos, and one of the things that continually came up about Michael was he developed himself and he developed those around him. It wasn't just that they trained, they continually developed and honed their skills to be the best that they could be in the moment and position that they were in. That's what leaders do. They develop not only themselves, but those around them. So Mike Van Pelt, coming to you, and you don't have to use the Michael Jordan example if you don't necessarily want to, but when you think about developing a team and developing yourself and developing those around you, especially as a leader, what are some of the things that really come to mind on not just the concept of, well, I trained on it once, so I'm good to go? Because unfortunately that happens a lot.
Well, Chris, the documentary that I couldn't remember either was called The Last Dance. And
Last Dance. I kept wanting to say The Last Stand, which is a movie.
Yeah, and it is 2023. It is the year of Jordan. So I named it that coming into the year because I like even numbers versus odd numbers. But the only odd number I really care for is 23 because that's MJ. They said during that documentary, which was an incredible documentary about the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan, was people almost hated to go to practice because Michael was so intense in practice. And that really has everything to do, and I can totally relate to that because when I was in college and we were at the University of Arkansas, we practiced our tails off. In fact, we had the saying down there, I don't know if you all remember this, called 40 minutes of hell. And that really related to the first 40 minutes of practice, to be honest with you, where we did some pretty intense drills. Why do we do that? Well, because practice should always be harder than the game. The game should be fun. The game should be fun. So then it comes down to preparation and how you're preparing to play the game. And that's what good leaders do. They know how to prepare, and they know how to prepare the people around them so that when it comes game time, that's the easy part.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, especially when it comes to that preparation, because when we talked about training last week, it was more of just getting people to not just show up to the training, but get involved in the training. But when you think about continually developing the skills, what many people miss, and we used to coach, teach, preach this over and over again on the fire department, the thing you last trained on, or the thing you were most strongest in your training on or developing with, is going to be what you fall back on the most. And I don't want it to be my worst. I want it to be my best when I show up. For us, it wasn't necessarily the game. It was when what we call the lights and tones go off. Those lights and tones go off. You better be ready to be your best, because whoever called is expecting you to do that. And that can go across the board in any industry, any sport, anywhere you go. Jim, coming to you. I know we talk a lot about karaoke here, but at the same time, when we think about it, let's say you get a new singer. And they come up and they're singing, and you say, you know what, that was great. Let me show you how you could develop better. That's Jim as a leader, as a developer, helping that singer become better, so they can lead themselves better when they're up there, so they get more views, likes, and shares. Or what else adds value here is the simple fact that it's not just Jim showed up, threw a couple speakers up there and a little mixing soundboard and said, hey, we got karaoke, where's the TV? No, because I know Jim does more than that. He develops those singers, because some of them may be seeking other opportunities that are out there, not just, hey, I showed up here and I'm going to sing, which would be this guy, me. So the value that Jim adds in developing them, and Jim, I want you to speak some more into the importance of developing those around you so they can be better versions of themselves, is the simple fact that as a leader, more people are going to want to come to Jim, not just to show up to a great karaoke show, but because they're going to know and find out that he wants to develop them into better singers, into better performers. It's not just the singing. He does so many other things too. So Jim, to you, why is that so important to you?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I'm very excited about. You talk my language here. And I tell you, first off, I wanted to say you are absolutely right. Development is so key. What makes martial arts, shout out to Jesse Bowen. All of us know him and work with him to some capacity. But the belts, the ranks, the progression, people need to see a progression. By definition, that's developing yourself. Even in karaoke, Mike, you know this, probably, Chris, you might know, I do develop everything in sets of 3. We have normal karaoke, we have premium karaoke, and we have the next stage, the expert karaoke. And the whole thing is, it's interesting because, we have, since the beginning, we had what we call showcase singers. We didn't have as refined as we did today. And spotlight singers. Showcase singers are people we can rely on. We know they'll create a great show. And our claim to fame now is to be able to take a karaoke show and flip it into, a karaoke event, which is open karaoke. Anyone can sing. We attract good singers anyway, but we can flip it into a show at any time. Why is that important? Because I can tell you, business owners, we're not looking for the bad singers at bars. We're looking for the upper top scale locations. So we're getting in some really prominent areas. We just launched a new place on Friday. But the development is so very important. I think people that want to progress, get better by nature, is going to want to develop. Also, you're going to find that you attract a different quality of people. When we started doing this, we actually have professional singers. Kelly Williams came in, and we also have Jennifer Bell as well. Professional singers in bands. They get paid, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to sing. And so she comes in and she made a comment. She goes, wow, I really like this group here. And because we are developing people, she noticed definitely a difference immediately. And she saw also where she stands in the rank, meaning she knows she's going to be at the top rung. She's not making it about her. I'm just defining it about that. But the fact that she saw that progression, she felt more drawn to it than just going to an average place just to sing, because she saw the development, And so I think developing, no matter what you're doing, is so key, just to be better by definition in terms of however you define better. But I can tell you, it gives camaraderie. people. People rally around you. They want to hear you be better. They want to see you be better. You know, if we're talking about karaoke specifically, but that progression is so very important, so people can see they can get improvement, and the right people come. Let me ask you this: do you think you get a different breed of people if you're working with people that don't really care and don't want to develop themselves versus those that want to develop themselves? There you go. By definition, you're going to attract just people, in my mind. I'm not saying better as people, but you understand what I'm saying, the better type to work with, because by nature, they're trying to do the best they can and to even exceed it.
Yeah, and we see that all the time. You know, I actually, while you were talking, I knew there was a karaoke story I was trying to remember off the top of my head, and it had to do with the band Journey. I don't know if you guys have seen their documentary on Netflix. It's amazing. That the new lead singer. Okay, now if I remember the documentary right, and if I don't, sorry, but I'm pretty sure this is how the story goes.
He's amazing, by the way.
Yes, the band had all but given up, and one of the band members was essentially scrolling YouTube trying to just find somebody, because if you type in Journey karaoke, I've got a feeling you're going to get a ton of hits. Jim, you can't tell me a Journey song doesn't get sung every single time, if not close to it. And he was YouTubing, and he finds this singer and was able to look up where he was at. He was at some bar or restaurant in the Philippines, if I remember right.
I think that's right.
And he calls the guys and goes, "Hey, I found him." And they're like, "Nah, we're done, man. We're done. We're not going to find anyone else." He goes, "I found him. I'm telling you, I found him." "Well, on your dime, go down there and you tell us. You got to hear it in person, though, not just some YouTube video." And keep in mind, this was a while ago, before we had some of the even more HD stuff we have now. And so he flies down there, and he hears this guy, calls him immediately. "You're on your way. Get down here." The natural talent that is in this young man is what Journey is. And so they get down there, they listen to him. And again, if I remember the story right, someone made the comment, if he continues to develop beyond where he's at now, and we'll help him do that with the right coaches too, he's going to be able to sing in front of 30, 40, 50,000 people. Easy. And so they switched it to him and asked him, what was that like? He goes, "If they hadn't developed me to where I could become today, that first time I got on stage, I would not have been ready. I would have fallen back to what it was like singing in the karaoke bars," which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the thing is, let's be honest, there's a huge difference between singing in a karaoke bar and going on stage in front of tens of thousands of people. You know, and so that's, again, it's not a knock either way, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah.
I've done some karaoke. To all of a sudden jump on a stage like that, and you say you're the new lead singer of Journey, you better have done some work. And so the thing here is to understand that there are different varying degrees of development in everything we do. And it takes a great leader to ensure that not only they're developing themselves, but they're also utilizing that knowledge, that experience, the things that they've taken from the losses, the wins, the mistakes, the celebrations, all those different things together, and developing all those around them. If we look at products over the centuries, I mean, we're all talking on some pretty impressive equipment at this point of technology, correct?
Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to have this discussion on the stuff we were using in the 90s? No. Why? Because someone said there's more to this. And it took a team that was developing it and working on it, and a leader that said, continually develop, continue to work, continue to invent. Or in some cases, and Mike, this is coming back into you, reinvent. Sometimes it is brand new. And for the most part, I know most people say, oh, just about everything's been invented. I don't agree with that. I really don't. But if we do continue to reinvent ourselves and develop, how much more greatness is going to happen on this planet? Encourage us, Mike. Let's go.
Yeah. You know, this is that word reinvent. That's an interesting word, I think. I was feeling it as I was hearing you talk about it, because it is about development and learning. And gosh, you know, just when I think I've arrived, I'm constantly reminded I'm not even close. And that reinvention doesn't necessarily mean I'm changing anything, but in constant development, constant flow, constant action. And I'm learning all the time. I think, oh, wow, I'm so much wiser than I was 5 years ago, but I'm not even close to where I need to get to. And I'm not even close to where I want to be, And now some people might find that intimidating. I got to say, I just flat out find it exciting because, you know, I want to see how far I can take myself, and I want to see how far I can take others along with me. And I got to say, I find it as exciting, if not more exciting, to see other people reinventing themselves and developing along the way. I mean, the stories that come out of it, just that feeling that you saw somebody take a giant leap, man, that it just pumps me up. I love that. And I love being in the position where, I mean, you and I both, Chris, we're seeing that more and more all the time. And it's such a thrill. It's such a thrill. It will never get old, I don't think.
Well, and the thing is, Mike, what you're speaking to is to me, and this isn't necessarily a word I use within these categories, is leaders as an example, because I leave it right here. If you want to be a great leader, be the example. What example are you going to be? And if you listen to all the different experts, all the different gurus, and all those successful people, there's a constant theme here, and there's several of them, but one of them is I'm constantly working on myself. I'm constantly developing myself. I mean, there's an entire book category dedicated to this term, personal development. But the thing is, and Jim, this is where I want to come back to you, and it doesn't necessarily have to speak just to karaoke, but in anything business, I mean, emceeing events, running different groups that you're running, GCC that we do together, you're putting together lots of different teams within different networks. The thing is if we grow stagnant and we're no longer an example of what we're teaching and preaching, what kind of development is going to exist or not going to exist? And why is it so important to be that example of continual development?
Well, I think one thing is you think about what development is, it's growth, right? Think of anything that doesn't develop. Technology is the obvious one. You don't develop in technology, you will fall behind very quickly. You have a child that's born, he's not developing, something is wrong, right? And so, anything that isn't growing is usually dying. And so I think development is so very important to really see, and whatever that means, whether it be mentally, and we don't ever want to go backwards. I think if people are honest, they evaluate what those words mean. We always want to be growing. By nature, that is a definition for me, is of developing, just being better. The idea is developing, the concept being better. And I think it's just very important to understand just the importance of just really making sure that you're not staying at the same spot. Think of that whole thing. There's that statement, moving the needle. You're going to want to be able to do something. Otherwise, again, you will eventually die. And you think of anything that does not grow, and I'm making growth as synonymous as developing, then it just by nature, it eventually dissipates and it eventually goes away. So.
Yeah, and the thing is, a couple terms that just were rolling through my head there as you were talking is life isn't static. What's the old saying? Time waits on no one. Mm-hmm. Life is not static. Life is dynamic, and it's going to change. Things are going to change. Things around you are going to continue to grow or develop. Whichever way you want to look at that term, we can use that interchangeably. Absolutely. In the essence of too, though. And coming back to what Mike was saying about, these different people we're helping and watching them grow, I have nothing wrong with someone growing beyond me. I could be learning from them. I could be developing upon what they've learned and what they've brought to the table. Man, I feel like I'm name dropping shows like crazy today. But EA Prince has a video called The Graveyard. And the essence of this, it's a YouTube video. The essence of it is, where is the richest place on earth?
Yeah.
It's the graveyard. And it's because that's where all the ideas and all the inventions and all the innovations went to die because of one of a few things. And one of them being is people stopped developing. They stopped growing. They became stagnant or static, however you want to look at it. And they stopped doing it for a number of reasons. Someone tore them down. Someone didn't believe in them. A leader didn't rise up with them and help them develop it. There are more ideas each and every day that get ignored and don't get developed upon because of a leader who did not take the initiative to say, you know what, I'll grow with you. Or, hey, you know what, run with it, because honestly, not my specialty. I can't tell you how many people I say it all the time. This is not my specialty. You run with it. I'll help you in any way I can. And if it's something that goes beyond me, I'll find the people, because one of the things we are going to be talking about very quickly here in the next few weeks is leaders as resources / toolboxes. But if we're not developing and honing these very skills, these very ideas, these very inventions that are being placed out there, we do get static. And then it just goes to the graveyard. I heard it said the other day, I was in a chat with some people, and a gentleman made a very bold statement. And there was a piece of me that really kind of had to resonate with it, quite honestly. And he made the comment, he said, here's the thing. Either you run with the idea and you answer the call that God has given you, or he's going to give it to someone else.
Mm.
You know, you look at Jesus. He didn't just train the disciples once. He didn't just say, go, okay, go. Go talk to people, go heal them. He was constantly working on them. He was constantly working with them. He was constantly developing them. And we have all agreed here as believers in Christ that Jesus is the greatest servant leader ever. One of the best ways that you can serve your very people is you can train and develop them continually. And yes, sometimes it's going back to the basics. There's many times we overcomplicate our trainings. We overcomplicate the development we're doing, and we forget the most basic of things that we need to do because we get lost in development. Keep it simple. You don't have to overcomplicate things. Work with one another, communicate with one another, all these different things that we've been telling everybody. Do it together, and you will see a developmental scale like no other that you could never imagine if you continually do just that. Develop. Jim, final thoughts from you, and how can we get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, I love this whole concept of developing. I think we need to think about, just are we developing? Are we growing? And more importantly, where are we growing towards? Equally important. Of course, we have the Global Cooperative Chamber as well. You can find me at jimtchong.com. And of course, never forgetting about the zoomturtle.com for a lot of the things that just I'm about, but jimtchong.com or zoomturtle.com. So check out my latest interview on Facebook. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And so we have the true man, Mike Van Pelt. Mike, we just, your closing thoughts on just as a true man, as people looking up to you, the importance and how you want to close this out of people seeing us as leaders, seeing us constantly developing and working on ourselves and working on them. There's a lot of importance to that.
It's everything. I mean, if you're going to be a good role model, if you're going to be a good mentor, if you're going to be the person that you want to be, the best person you want to be looked up to, you got to do the deed, right? You've got to live it out. And by the way, next Monday is Memorial Day, so we haven't talked about this, but I'm under the assumption that we will not be on next Monday. So, and the reason I bring that up is not to throw Chris a curveball while we're on the air, but
I was already thinking it. It's okay.
I want to say that some of the greatest trained people on the face of the earth are American military, and a lot of great leaders have died for this country. So since we're not going to be on next Monday, I just want to say that Memorial Day is one of my favorite holidays of the year. And it's because we celebrate those that have so graciously died for our freedom in this country. So I just want to recognize that right off the top, because I don't know of people that have had any more great training than the not only our military people, but Chris, you as a first responder, our first responders, our military, the people that serve us, our police, our firemen. I mean, man, that is the epitome of leadership right there. And if you want to turn to a great example of people that do it right every day and know how to prepare so that they can save essentially our lives, in the worst of times, then, look at that. So that's how I would end today. And you can reach out to me at mike@truemanlifecoaching.com. And you can always find the True Man podcast and other stuff on my website, truemanlifecoaching.com.
Hey, Mike, we need one more plug for the True Man podcast. Why is that?
Oh, thank you, Chris. Yes, this is outstanding. I have a terrific guest this week that will be coming out on Thursday. It's this dude by the name of Chris Tice. So you'll definitely want to check out this week's podcast on Thursday. Yep.
I'm sorry, I had to, but
thank you for saying that.
For those that are watching, honestly, I listen to Mike's podcast. All his guests are absolutely exceptional, and the knowledge that he brings to it as well, and the gifts that he brings. And I just made the comment about firemen. My very first lieutenant, I believe I've shared this on here before, and if I haven't, here you go. Here's the first time. My very first shift on the job. So I'd already gone through the training academy and had all the different, trainings, but there's always still more to develop upon. There was also still developing with my crew, because when you train in recruit class, you have your dedicated instructors and you have all the other recruits with you. Now, every now and again, other crews may come out because we train different scenarios and need some extra help, stuff like that. But once you're assigned to a station, that's now your crew. You got to develop together. And I remember my very first shift on the job was a Saturday, and Saturday is big cleanup. We'd scrub the trucks, scrub the floors, everything else. And one thing as a rookie is you don't let your officer or seniors be the first to a mop. It's just, it's just the thing we do. And so I went over to take it from him. And needs to say, he wasn't going to let me. Fact matter to the point of I quit reaching because it turned into I dare you to take this from me. And everybody goes, don't try it. So anyways, he looked at me. He said, Chris, he goes, we're not only a team, we're a family. He goes, and as your leader, there is never anything that I will ask you to do or tell you to do that I have not been willing to do or have done myself. He goes, because we will train and develop together as a team and as a family. And I learned a very, very, very valuable leadership lesson that day. Because one of the things I had not done my best in leadership prior to being on the fire department was, and I'm going back to being a pizza, I was really good at training people, but I didn't continually develop with some of them. Some I did, some I didn't. And the ones that we did continually develop with were the ones who rose up to management, things like that, which there's a whole bunch of other extenuating circumstances we don't have time for today. But the point is, the ones who continually developed were the ones who did the best. They're the ones who got the pay raises. They're the ones who made management, things like that. Same thing with being a fireman, just difference in how we did it together because we were a team and a family. And so that's a biggie. If you want to be a great leader, be the example.
Yep.
That example needs to be positive. It's what you set before you, what you set inside yourself is what other people are going to see and do. And if you want them doing the great things that you're doing and beyond, set a great example. Continually train on it, continually develop on it. So yes, you're correct, Mike. We are taking next week off. Thank you so much to all those that have gone before us, have laid down the ultimate sacrifice. And we will look forward to, in 2 weeks, we're going to change gears just a little bit out of this training development mindset. We're going to come back to it. We're going to switch it to as leaders, as planners. What are you planning? What are you planning for yourself? What are you planning to get the job done? What are you planning with others? It's always just this constant shuffle as a leader. It's one that we've got to create balances in. But we do it, and we do it well. Why? Because we train and develop on it. So I'm Chris Tice, co-founder and CEO of Eagle Fire Enrichment, your leadership solutions company. You can find me at chris@eaglefireenrichment.com. And until next time, Have your best day ever by making every day great. Remember, Kent never did. God bless us all.